Hello, my name is Bill Bowen, and I'm a project manager here in Ottawa, Canada. This video is in support of a project status report assignment that I've given my students. In this video, I will give a quick overview of the purpose of a project status report, how it is to be structured, and give some tips and strategies on how each section could be approached. I hope you find this video to be useful in your project management studies. First question you might be asking yourself is, why do we have to produce status reports at all? After all, as project managers, we are already constantly talking with the project stakeholders, so they probably already have a good idea as to the project status. While this is no doubt true, there are several valid reasons to formally publish a project status report. Often, it is simply a contractual requirement that you do so, and as such it needs to be fulfilled. But beyond this contractual requirement, a status report serves as your formal official record that the stakeholders were made aware of the project status and any difficulties that have been encountered on the project. This is important, as should the project run into trouble down the road, the stakeholders may begin to question the decisions that were made in the past that brought them to this point. Your status report serves as your formal record detailing why the project unfolded as it did. On a different note, as change happens on almost all projects, status reports can be an effective way to notify stakeholders of these changes and provide updates to the project scope, process, procedures, as well as its status itself. Finally, a status report is a way to advise stakeholders of obstacles and obstructions on the project. As a project manager myself, I am often amazed at how fast stakeholders will move to resolve problems when you indicate in your formal status report that something under their control is blocking progress on the project. Status reports themselves are generally produced during the project's monitoring and controlling phase. They are used by management to determine if changes or actions need to be taken with regards to the project. A status report, sometimes referred to as a project report, provides updates to the project stakeholders on the project's original plan, including information such as what accomplishments have occurred over the last reporting period, what problems were encountered during the last reporting period, and what updates to the project schedules have been made. While we tend to think of a status report as focusing mainly on providing the stakeholders with an update to the project schedule as compared to what was originally published in the project plan, it can in fact be used to provide updates on just about any areas of the original project plan that has either been changed or updated over the last reporting period. Usually multiple reporting periods are defined within a project, and each individual status report focuses only on reporting the changes that have occurred over its specific reporting period. Thus, the first status report would focus simply on reporting activities that have occurred since the project plan was originally published up until when the reporting period ended. And the second status report would focus on changes that occurred on the project since the first status report was published. The successive status reports do not try to recap all the changes that have occurred since the beginning of the project, only those changes that have occurred during the specific reporting period that they're responsible for. In the event that major changes have occurred on the project during the reporting period, the status report can be used to update and republish areas of the original project plan. For example, should significant change occurs on the project schedule, it might be beneficial to publish an updated Gantt chart, as it would allow the reader to fully appreciate the impact of the change on the project as a whole. Similarly, if other areas of the plan were significantly impacted, such as the Risk Registry Quality Plan or WBS, then the status report could be used to inform the stakeholders of these types of changes to the plan. This slide shows the 8 sections called for in your status report assignment. As assessment marks have been allocated to each section of this template, to maximize your mark on this assignment, you are strongly encouraged to attempt each section. I'll now walk through a quick overview of each section's purpose and give you an idea of its information requirements. Your status report should begin with a quick introduction to the project. It's possible the reader might not be familiar with the project, or they may not have thought about the project since the last status report, and thus would benefit from a quick reminder as to what the project's all about and what its desired outcome is. Remember, this is a high-level introduction, designed simply to remind the reader of the project. If they are truly not familiar with the project, then they can always read more about the project's specific details in the project plan. The content for this section is usually created once, based on the information in the project plan, and then simply repeated at the start of each successive status report. After you've defined your project, for those readers who might not be familiar with it, you should provide the highlights of your status report within your executive summary. Don't assume the reader will read your entire status report. Many stakeholders are quite busy and will only scan your status report, focusing primarily on your summary section. As such, your summary section should present your main points and issues that you feel are most important to the reader. Some project managers also like to include a more subjective analysis of the project in this section, in case the reader is not able to interpret the more quantitative analysis that is provided in the rest of the document. The next section provides an update on the planned activities for the reporting period. Each status report focuses on defining what has changed, or the delta that has occurred from the last status report to the current one, or in the case of the first status report, from the start of the project to the first status report. Planned activities does not describe everything that is planned to be done during the course of the project. Instead, it gives an update on those activities that were expected to be started or finished during the reporting period. There are several dates that are important when describing task status. First, you should remind the reader when the task was originally planned to be started and finished. You should also specify the dates when the task was actually started and finished. These 4 dates should be provided for all tasks. As well, additional start and end dates can be provided if delays have occurred or schedule accelerations have been encountered that have changed when a task was originally planned to when it's now being planned. By specifying these dates, you provide the reader with insight into how the progress's actual performance is going according to its planned performance. As you begin each section of the status report, do not simply present data to the reader on the hopes that they will have the knowledge and expertise to interpret the data you present. Instead, always provide a lead-in paragraph in each section that guides the reader in understanding the information being presented. As well, be very aware that status reports are intended to be produced quickly and read quickly. As such, avoid long narrative descriptions of the project and focus on presenting the project status in as concise a format as possible. Project management has many tools and techniques for presenting complex information in very concise and easy-to-read formats. I encourage you to review the PMBOK for different ways to present such information. I also encourage you to consider using a simple table format or other similar approaches within your status report, as they are a great way to present information. As you present project status updates, there is no doubt that any changes to the schedule raise questions in the reader's mind as to what happened. As such, be prepared to present some supporting narrative as to the situation surrounding schedule changes. The reader is probably primarily interested in knowing what the impact will be on the overall project of any delays or schedule accelerations. Essentially, did these events impact tasks that are on the critical path or not? If the events impacted tasks that are not on critical path, then is there sufficient slack in the schedule to accommodate them? Also, do not be surprised if the reader is less interested in learning all the details surrounding the delays, as they are in learning how processes and procedures on the project will be changed to prevent future such delays. Finally, have a strategy in mind as you write your description. Are you asking for help, or do you have everything under control? Anticipate that the reader wants to know if decisions will need to be made or not, and write your explanation in order to guide the reader as to what needs to be done. The Unplanned Activities section has a similar information requirement as the Planned Activities section. Only in this section, you identify new tasks that were not originally planned for as part of the WBS, or tasks that were originally planned to be completed later in the project but have now been moved forward. For consistency, I would encourage you to use the same information reporting style that you used in your previous section. For example, if you used a table in your last section, use a similar table in this section. You should also provide a lead-in paragraph and supporting narrative as to why unplanned activities were performed or identified. This section is a more general section than the previous ones. It offers you an opportunity to provide supporting narrative on the tasks that were scheduled to be completed as part of the reporting period, but were not. You can provide some descriptive narrative as to what happened with these tasks and what can be done to prevent such occurrences in the future, or possibly specify a project recovery strategy of some kind, or you might simply provide an updated planned starting and end dates for each task. In this section, you establish the anticipated work to be accomplished over the next reporting period. What you define as your planned activities for the next reporting period becomes your next status report's planned activities for the period section. Thus, you should present your activities that you plan to accomplish in the same format as you presented the planned activities in your first section. Earned value analysis is where you provide your quantifiable analysis of your project status. Many students find earned value analysis to be a challenging subject, and as such, instead of trying to compress it into this short presentation, I have created a separate video that deals exclusively with earned value analysis. I have included the link to this second video in the description below, and I invite you to take a look at the video, as earned value is a very interesting subject that you will use within your project management studies. Concerns and recommendations. I view this last section of the project status report as a very general section that you, as project manager, can bring up topics that you don't feel fit into the other sections of the report. You can definitely update the risk registry with new risks, remove risks that are no longer valid, or modify risks as your knowledge of those risks grow. You can also advise the reader of any potential new concerns that you have for the project. Do not view the acknowledgement of project concerns as a sign that you have somehow failed in fulfilling your professional duties as a project manager. Instead, you might find that the reader's confidence in your ability increases if you acknowledge concerns, and then you present reasonable courses of actions to address those concerns. So to wrap up, status reports are short, concise reports that have specific information requirements. They serve a quasi-legal obligation to formally inform the project stakeholders of the project to date. You should strive to make them as informative, useful, beneficial to the project as possible, and most of all, make them easy to read and easy to write. And that concludes my walkthrough. I hope you found it useful. Status reports are a key element of project management. Once again, my name is Bill Bowen, and I am a project management instructor here in Ottawa, Canada. If you enjoyed this video, then I invite you to check out some of my other videos on project management. You will find I have videos that cover a number of topics in a similar style. As always, I hope you found this video to be useful and helpful.